What's up, everybody? Welcome to Send It, the official blockchain and cryptocurrency podcast from OKX Insights. I'm your host, Adam, and I'm joined, as always, by our senior editor, Rick, and our senior copywriter, Maxwell. And we have a very cool guest on today, someone I'm very happy to be able to call a real internet friend, Big D, Big D Senpai on Twitter. A lot of you who are listening may already know him, but Big D, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. Big D, good friend of Adam's, and super excited to be here. I am one of the founders on a project called AnataNFT, which I guess we'll get into here on the show at some point. But it's a VTuber avatar on NFT.
Right on. And before we get into Anata and stuff, what's your story? What's your background? Before you started the project on Anata, what's your sort of experience with crypto and the industry and all that stuff, leading up to today?
Yeah, so I, years and years ago on 4chan, I found out about the, Bitcoin, and didn't buy it, of course. Wouldn't need to launch an NFT project if I had. I'm just kidding. In 2013, 2014, thought it was a really neat idea, but I was a poor student and just didn't get into it. So came back around 2019. Obviously, the space was a lot more mature at that point. There was a lot more going on. So just kind of sat and watched for about a year or so before I put any money into it. I'm a very cautious person, believe it or not. So got into it real hard in 2020, and just kind of been rolling ever since. So yeah, worked for some protocols on Ethereum, on Solana, and just been all over the place.
Right on, man. So, let's talk about Anata then. But maybe before we talk about that specifically, let's talk about VTubing. So, yeah, I think a lot of people listening, even people who are have been around the crypto space for a long time, probably still don't know really what VTubing is because it's a fairly new sort of phenomenon. How would you describe it? How would you talk about VTubing? What is it to someone who has no idea?
Yeah, so more or less at the end of the day, it's just sort of streaming for people who aren't comfortable or don't want to put their actual pictures like you guys are doing right now. You guys have your real identities in the meet, and I'm anonymous myself. So other than something like this, where I'm mirroring my face and actions with a cartoon character. Before Anata, I used my avatar. I have a VTube version of my avatar, which is a little Pepe frog in a Boomeroo hamster hood. But it just gives you a way to emote and talk to people and look at people when you're streaming or meeting. Usually VTubers, most people think of VTubers as a streaming thing so far, but it gives you a way to do that and be anonymous at the same time. Yeah, and there's a big, in Japan and now in America, there's this really, really big, but also niche sort of underground fan bases for these people on, YouTube and to a lesser degree Twitch who use avatars like this to stream video games or just chatting or whatever. It's turning into a really big thing over the last few years.
Yeah, I got a few high level questions just about anonymity and kind of pseudonymity. So cool. You said anonymity, but I guess you mean pseudonymity, right?
Well, I guess so. Yeah, I suppose that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and so maybe I can just ask, for you, what is the driving, the reason behind it? Is it a security thing or a privacy thing, or
just a privacy thing? I don't know. I feel more comfortable separating mostly my my IRL real life with my internet life. No real tremendous security reason. It's not like I have 10,000 Bitcoin or whatever that somebody can come steal. I'm not that well off, But yeah, I don't know. I like to just be judged by my actions online. My actions in the space. If at this point I gave my real name now, it would be totally meaningless anyway because my whole reputation is under Big D, or however you want to, Senpai, or however you want to go with it. But I don't know. I just feel more comfortable this way, and I think for a lot of people it's security, but for me and plenty of other people too, it's just kind of a comfort level thing, a privacy thing.
So do you think anonymity or pseudonymity is the driving force behind the popularity of VTubing, or is it something else, maybe expression? Or
I think expression probably for most regular VTubers, and when I say regular VTubers, I mean like non-Web3 VTube people. I think that the idea is that that you can kind of be anyone you want to be with VTubing, and some people don't want to broadcast. I mean, it might not be that they're not happy with who they are, but they just enjoy being, I don't know, a blonde winged angel or like a frog or whatever more. And it's nice to have that freedom. At least I think it's nice to have that freedom to be sort of anything you want to be. You just have to find an avatar for it. I wouldn't be surprised if, in Japan it's a little bit different because, right, like fandom over there is generally maybe a bit more intense than it is here. So you have creepy stalkers and stuff like that. You hear a lot of those kind of crazy stories about like idols stalked and their lives like torn apart by, people who are just like go over the edge. They might have a little bit more of a security thing over there, but especially here, probably more expression, in my opinion.
Yeah, I dig that too, because even I think with a lot of people on Twitter, like speaking for myself, or using myself as an example, like being in the job that I'm in and have worked in the past, like I can't be like a fully anonymous individual. It's just not possible, really. So like, but I can maintain like a pseudo anonymous like identity on Twitter, which is what I like to do because it doesn't necessarily, like if someone wants to go after me, I'm sure they'll be able to, but like it does like divorce my real self from my online self in a certain way, because probably the vast majority of people who follow me at this point, like unless they've watched the podcast, like don't know who I am or what I look like. So I do like just having that sort of like buffer as a way. And that leads me to a question I would ask, like, do you think that VTubing is set to like really take off, maybe specifically like this year? Because I do think that we will see a trend more and more as, the online space continues to just expand and like permeate into everybody's everyday lives, and the metaverse is coming and all that stuff, that more and more people will want to create that sort of buffer. Is that how you see it as well?
I think so. I think a big part of it, honestly, and this is not like an Anata plug, but I think a big part of it is that the tools are getting a lot easier. So I've been VTubing for a while, and before we started working on Anata, there wasn't like a quick, easy plug and play extension that you could use to take a VTuber avatar and plug it right into Google Meets or whatever this software we're using right now, Restream or whatever is. It was kind of a complicated process. You had to hijack your camera with like OBS or Twitch Studio or whatever, and then you had to open up VTube Studio, and it's all this complicated. Matter of fact, I can put it on screen sort of so you can see it. As you can see, there's my face tracking and everything. It's like a lot of complicated settings. It's this stuff like this is like a lot for people to take in. So I think that one thing that sort of stopped VTubing from being like a big thing that everybody does, like people doing like meetings and stuff, and just mostly reserved for streamers, is that it's pretty complicated, right? So anyway, we linked up with these really genius guys from this protocol Hologram, which is just getting off the ground. We didn't make it. Tong and Hong Z, the creators, are just like people we ended up linking up with early in the process. And so we're the first like natively supported like hologram asset, but there will be more in the future, of course, as they like build out their platform and everything. They've got some really cool ideas. But anyway, Hologram makes it super easy to just plug your VTuber into whatever through Chrome, and eventually Hologram will have other stuff like desktop apps and things like that. That'll make it easy to plug it into anything. And I think when that barrier is gone for a lot of people, it's just going to explode. because VTube Studio, the program I'm using right now, doesn't play very well on like Mac or Linux. A lot of crypto Web3 people use like Macs, it's like devs and things. So there's a big barrier right there gone. And it's just finicky and hard to use compared to like Hologram. So I think as the tools become available for everybody, I really do think it's going to become enormous. Yeah.
Yeah, I looked into it fairly recently. I was in like Discords and stuff trying to find someone to like commission to like do one, and just that whole process. Yeah, that whole process was like a nightmare too. I had to resort to that because you wouldn't give me an honorary.
I know. I'm sorry.
Despite the
list is done. I know. I'll try to sneak something in at the end. I'll try. I can't promise.
I'm just like yeah, but it's like all of the artists and stuff that you could find. One, there was almost always a language barrier because a lot of them were in Japan or in Asia, and also a lot of them had their commissions were closed, so they just weren't even taking anymore. So like, assuming you could find someone, then it was like, so they would do the art, right? But then they wouldn't do the animation. So you need to find somebody to commission to do the animation, the emotes and stuff. And it was very, just the process of like procuring your own non-NFT, VTube live 2D avatar was like enough to make me just be like, whatever.
It is. It's nightmarish. Yeah, it was really hard. I got lucky. I don't have my frog avatar loaded up, or else I'd totally turn it on. But I got lucky when I found the artist who made my Pepe Frog one, and that ended up being the artist that did all the Anatas too. We hired her on, and she brought on a team, something that she had been wanting to do for a long time, like put a team together and make a studio. So I got real lucky. She didn't care about crypto stuff. If you want like an NFT VTuber, I think you're going to have a real hard time. You're going to have to NFT it yourself outside of like Anata. If you do go out and figure out how to commission a VTuber, which is a pain in and of itself, like you said, because most of these people, if they know what NFTs are, in my experience so far, they're not big fans.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to one question I had is like, why an NFT for these? Like, what value does it give?
Well, so we think that like, I think that just like with PFPs, being able to own the identity that you're using every day. In the case of a PFP, you're owning it and using it on Twitter or Discord or whatever as a profile picture. With this, obviously, it's a little bit more intimate because you're actually like, behind it, it's tracking your face and everything. So the identity is you just, with an overlay. But either way, the concept is the same where like, you can buy art without an NFT. You can use art as your profile picture without an NFT, but the NFT gives you the opportunity to really own something, including like the license for it, easily, and prove ownership, prove provenance or whatever, without trustlessly, I guess. So all the benefits of like NFTing, like normal art, are the same here, I would say. And then also, the nice thing about NFTing them is that you can. So we're taking 50% of the ETH from the mint, and we're putting it into the treasury, for like the DAO, basically. I'm not sure if we're going to call it a DAO, but it is a DAO at the end of the day. And the holders are going to choose like what derivatives or whatever they want to make with it. So they're going to direct that money to do like VRM models maybe of each Anata that they could use in VR chat or Neos VR or whatever, and that kind of thing. Like that level of like organization and voting and stuff like that is really not. I mean, I guess it's possible outside of like a DAO, but it's like very difficult and maybe illegal, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, those are some benefits.
I think too, like, just the being able to prove ownership and whatnot, that I think it's particularly pertinent to something like an Anata, because a lot of people will use these, right, as an online persona, not just a profile picture, but like they will stream with these, they will use these in YouTube videos and whatnot, and it will become an identity that's tied to that person or that channel and whatnot. So I think it is almost more important than maybe some other just. I don't want to downplay, proving just art. You own some art or something, but when it's
Sure,
really
of
tied
course.
to your when it's really tied to your persona, and you could have people that are trying to rip you off, right click save sort of thing. It's the NFT aspect of it. I think is important.
For sure.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but are you guys still working with Arweave?
Yeah, we're gonna put him on Arweave. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Arweave, yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe you can explain that a little bit too, because I found that really interesting.
Sure. Yeah. So Arweave is basically, I'm sure most people are probably familiar with it, but Arweave is just like permanent file storage, right? So instead of being on like our centralized servers, they'll be on Arweave forever, so you don't have to worry about like if people end up hating the team and kicking us out or whatever, we're not going to like revenge delete all the files or what have you. They'll be there forever. And on our website, there will be like a page to sign to download your files if you're going to use them in VTube Studio. Like I said, like I'm using them. We think most people are probably going to use them in Hologram, just because it's so much easier and it mostly like fills almost every niche that you would actually want to use these for. Most like normal people would. And that's just download an extension and you sign with MetaMask in that extension and you're good to go. Yeah, but yeah, it's just permanent data storage, so you don't have to worry about our servers going offline or whatever.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you have the token, but it's also you that have the kind of the avatar on chain.
Yep, that's right. The files, all the files and everything. Yep, yeah. And then hologram or like sign to download or whatever just pulls those files in as like a zip file and just does its thing automatically, which is really nice.
Is that something also that the DAO will kind of determine for the I read something like there's a 200 years guaranteed or something, but it still costs some capital to keep that storage, right?
I think as far as I know, we've already paid. I'd have to ask like Grug. He's kind of more of a tech guy than I am on the Arweave side. I think it's pretty much once you've paid for the storage initially, then yeah, it's 200 years. I think it just continues like that. I'd have to ask though.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, 200 years is pretty far out. So.
Well, for us maybe, but for an angel,
it won't be our problem anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, but the DAO could, in theory, like that's another good thing about a DAO. Like you said, the DAO could, if they have to extend that or something. Again, I'm not an Arweave like expert really, but if they had to, they could do that.
And you're doing something a little bit unconventional with the mint itself. It's with a platform called MetaDrop. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. We're doing MetaDrop. Yep.
Explain a little bit more about the decision-making process behind going with MetaDrop.
Sure. So basically, we wanted to make sure. I mean, for speculators, we want there to be upside too. We don't want these to just mint out at their ultimate maximum price and then never go up or whatever. Because we understand that speculators are important too. We speculate ourselves, but with something like MetaDrop, where the price starts very low, right? And then people just go in and bid what they're comfortable bidding in like an auction over a 24-hour period. It ends at a random time in the last 2 or 3 hours so that you can't really game it. It's like verifiably random time in the last few hours. And the top, however many of them are on sale, I think there's going to be 1,920 on sale. The top 1,920 bids would win an Anata. It's really very simple. It seems kind of complicated when we like lay it out, but basically 24-hour auction ends at a random time towards the end, and whoever has the top bid at that point wins.
And everybody pays the lowest price.
Everybody pays the lowest price out of those people. Yep, which we think will help sort of with speculation and everything too. Like we said, we don't want to make it impossible for speculators to make money, but at the same time, we do want a well-funded treasury because we think that like as amazing as these are, and they are really cool. I mean, I'll kind of zoom in and like you can see the face is very expressive. It's got like a ton of emotes and things like that. You can like fire eyes and like, oh, disgusted, whatever. Which is really cool. There's a lot to them, but at the same time, we think that it would be really cool if this was like a comprehensive digital identity. So basically, not only do you get like an Anata for like VTubing, but you also end up with, like a 3D VRM model, which would probably be pretty expensive. So we're going to have a relatively well-funded treasury for something like that. And then maybe even like we could hire, if the DAO wants to do this, we could hire like a really accomplished like anime style artist, and they could do like stylized 2D pictures of each Anata. You know what I mean? Just all kinds of things to make it like that's whatever derivatives or whatever people wanted to make it like a very comprehensive identity for people.
And I read something about an Anatacademy. Do you want to explain a little bit about what that is?
The Anatacademy, yeah. So, the hologram thing is really easy. People really are not going to need a lot of help with that, I think. But we want to make it so that you're not like punished for not using hologram. Like you have a lot of resources to sort of navigate the very complicated world of like VTube Studio and OBS and Twitch Studio if you want to do sort of the traditional non-hologram way of using your VTuber. So we are going to provide like a bunch of docs and videos and like classes and things for holders. And I think, philosophically, I think non-holders are welcome too. We haven't really like figured that out yet, but I don't think we're going to like gate most of those classes. I think we want to foster like a community of VTubers, even people who can't afford an Anata or like didn't buy an Anata or whatever. But the aim of those will be to teach people how to use VTube avatars and VTube Studio and OBS and and like hijack camera into like your Zoom meeting or a TikTok or make like do a green screen in VTube Studio and like go into Premiere Pro and like edit out the green screen and use your Anata in like videos and things like that too with a transparent background. There's all kinds of cool stuff that you can do with these, and we don't want to just leave people hanging because it is complicated.
So the original auction was scheduled for like tomorrow or something like this week.
Tomorrow, right? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But you guys chose to have a brief delay, basically to improve the models of the male Anatas, right? Mm-hmm. Like just to make them better, which I think is cool. I mean, that's definitely better to put in the extra effort and take the time to make sure everything is like.
That's the thing. I mean, people could theoretically spend, like an ETH on these things. We don't want people spending hundreds or thousands of dollars on these, and then they get them and they're like, well, this is nice, but not perfect. The basic long and short of it, the gestalt is that the head of the males, we just ended up deciding towards the end once we could like sort of see everything and we were doing final QC. That the head of the males was pretty similar to, the masculine ones. We don't want to gender these. But the head of the masculine ones was pretty similar to the head of the feminine body ones. And I showed my mom one of them and she was like, well, that's really cool, but like that is feminine, and it was a masculine one. And I said, oh, okay, well, that's probably not what we're hoping to achieve, and as happy as we are, the artist is incredible. Like they came out really cool, but if that's how these are going to be forever, we'd rather just take an extra couple of weeks and make sure that like when people get them, they go like, wow, yeah, this is totally a masculine one. This looks cool. This looks like, a character from Berserk or Kimetsu no Yaiba or whatever anime, or manga that you want to, you're hoping to get a character from, that kind of thing.
And speaking of that, I wanted to ask too, I just remembered. So like when you bid in the auction, are they randomly distributed? How does the distribution work?
They're going to be randomly distributed. Yep. That's right. Yeah.
So you could randomly end up with a masculine one or randomly end up with a feminine one.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of neat in a way too, because I think aside from maybe like a philosophical discussion on like fairness or something, fair distribution, that also sort of encourages like trading, you would imagine, because there will be and the market will sort of end up pricing the ones it finds to be the best or the most valuable, It'll be interesting to watch. This.
I think it will.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean the styles are very different. I mean, there's devil ones and angel ones and like samurai ones and cyberpunk ones and like school kid ones and things like that. It's like very, very wide array of like outfits and vibes and stuff. And I really have no idea like what people are going to prefer, like what they're going to think are coolest. And we've got traits. It's really hard because because these are not generative. The artists put each one together by hand. A lot of them have like one-on-one traits that you can only find on like one Anata. A lot of them share outfits and things. Obviously, it's not like they're not all exactly one of one, but you get the idea. They're not generative. So like we have to go in and name the traits after individually for all 2000, and like it's like it was a very complicated process. But
Haircut
I don't think rarity
37.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't think rarity score is really gonna tell the whole story on an Anata. So I think, like you said, I think ultimately it's going to be down to taste and them finding like market price and market fit afterwards is, I think, going to be like totally different from anything that's come before because they're just not really comparable with all the different outfits and like types of Anata. And, I mean, usually you can just use rarity sniper or whatever they call that thing to say like, oh, this one's the rarest. Like it has like a galaxy style body. That's really rare. So this one's expensive. And it's not going to be quite the same with this.
Did I also see one of the reasons why the launch was delayed was because you're adding like a loop to like Rarible and OpenSea?
Yeah.
It's something that is programmatically generated?
Yeah, that is going to be programmatically generated. It's really cool. I know that like Invisible Friends has done this. I think a couple others have too. It's like pretty complicated, especially for Anatas. But the hologram guys, like ultimate geniuses that they are, like huge gigabrains, figured out a way to do like each Anata, and we'll have like a few different backgrounds probably on like a loop showing off like all the different like emotes, like this one and this one and this one. Can't really see this one super good on this background, but it's like an aura. Blushing. You get it. Anyway, it's going to show off all the like emotes and do some movement and stuff, so you can really get a feel for like not just like a PNG, but like a full range of motion and like emote for what it'll actually look like when you're using it. I think it's going to be a lot more descriptive of the actual Anata itself as opposed to just a picture, which shows what you're getting, but not really. Because I mean the whole thing is in movement for these things. So.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It looks great, like the art is great, but I think it is, something essential is the motion.
It's got to move. It's got to move for sure.
Well, before we let you go, because I know you got to run. Another maybe a more general NFT question: Are there any other projects that you just particularly are into in the NFT space, whether that be Bored Apes or whatever? Is there any projects that just you like for any specific reason, and like why? What are those reasons?
Yeah, I like Tubby Cats a lot. I think they put like a ton of effort into the art. I mean, they got like, I had followed a lot of those artists like Sugoi and Hoppy and stuff that did Tubby Cats previous to like the Tubby Cats launch. I was a big supporter of theirs, and I think that they like went above and beyond. Even at 20,000, so many of them just look extremely like unique. And then I love what they've been doing too, with doing further like art derivatives, like one of one art, and posting it too. I think they've got other like big plans too, even some that involve hologram and stuff. So I think Tubby Cats are awesome. I like Loomlock Wassies. Those also launched with MetaDrop. I think they're just called by Wassies now. I think they changed the name from Loomlock or whatever. But I like them because, of course, Wassies CT culture, but also because they've tried a lot of like neat. They've tried a lot of neat things with the NFTs, like after mint, like they kind of created like an RFV for them where you could like borrow. I think you could borrow like 0.5 ETH with a Wassie and stuff like that, and that's like a native like Loomlock thing, which I think is cool. And then turning over all the licenses like directly to the community and stuff, and like turning it into more of a DAO with the Biwasis thing. I think that's awesome. I like Webiverse a lot. They haven't released any NFTs yet, but I think Webiverse is going to be really cool. It's like kind of like Decentraland or Sandbox or whatever, but I think building from a perspective that's a lot more accessible to people, and I think also I can't really, they'd be better at like espousing their philosophy than I would, but I think their like philosophy on building is really cool. I think eventually they're gonna like really surprise people and probably overtake like Mana and Sand. Yeah, those are the big ones that come to mind. I like Ragnarok, Milady. Obviously, how could you not like the energy of Milady posters? I like those ones a lot. Yep. So AdWorld made me this one called AdWorld, also sort of similar, like weird vibes to Milady. I'd never heard of them before recently, but they made me an honorary, and they're just like, they're so weird. They're just really odd, and like the vibes are like totally off, and I like it a lot because of that. So those are the big ones that come to mind, I think.
Yeah, word. We all like Tubby Cats. We had a whole episode about Tubby Cats.
Let's go.
Yeah, we had Llama on after the mint and stuff. That was cool. And
nice.
Yeah, Milady and stuff. I know Rick and myself now have that as our PFPs. And then what was the other one you said?
Webiverse.
Webiverse. Yeah, I was looking at Webiverse the other day, and I was surprised because their Twitter, like off the top of my head, I think it have like 7,000 followers or around 8,000 followers or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was really surprised because that's it's low. So it has a feeling of, I mean, I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper, especially after what you just said, but has one of those sort of like hidden gem sort of statuses to it at the moment, it seems like. So.
It won't be like that for long. I feel strongly that that's the case. I think you could probably get them on the show, talk to them. Like it's really, really cool and interesting what they're building. I would not do it justice explaining it myself, but I think that it comes from a place, like a philosophy that's a lot more Web3, like Web3 native than something like Decentraland is, and I think that you see that a little bit with CT people. Look at videos and things from Decentraland, and they say like, "Oh, this is cheesy, this is corny." No offense to anybody who works at Decentraland or whatever that might be listening, but it's just like, that's happened a few times, and I'm not sure that you'll get the same sort of reaction when they start really pushing out like videos and like previews of like Webiverse harder. And I think it will get a lot more than 7,000 followers pretty quick.
And if you have time, I want to ask you another question too.
Yeah.
Like on the topic of that, like sort of like the difference between Webiverse and like Decentraland, one being sort of like cheesy and the other being more sort of like crypto native, let's say. Mm-hmm. I guess maybe wouldn't be necessarily right to say Decentraland isn't crypto native, but you know what I mean. The vibes.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to like take shots at them or whatever. I just think,
But one thing that I've been sort of talking about a lot and tweeting about and stuff is like as NFTs become more and more and more mainstream, and we see that with BAYC and CryptoPugs and that like advertisement that just came out with the Doors song and all that stuff. And it's like there's almost like a divergence now in the NFT sector I've probably been there for a while, but it's becoming wider now, I think, between like mainstream like NFTs that like your mom might have heard about or something versus like crypto native NFTs that I'm going to use Milady as an example, and I don't want to shill it because like I do own them and I have one as my PFP and whatnot. But like the reason I like that project personally is because it has a very like crypto vibe, very crypto Twitter vibe, a very crypto native like edginess to it. And also with using Tubby Cats as an example, that those were done by a lot of like crypto Twitter people, and it was very crypto Twitter, like sort of community focused. How do you interpret this sort of divide? Do you think like the NFT space is going to progress more toward like I don't know how to word it, but like having a wider gap between like, us crypto people and our like nerdy weird NFTs that nobody cares about versus like the BAYCs that like everybody knows about?
Yeah, I think ultimately, actually, the gap is going to narrow a bit. I think probably some like deep crypto Twitter people might not be happy with that gap narrowing. They might like enjoy sort of the relative like obscurity that like the projects that we love the most kind of enjoy, or I don't know if you'd say enjoy, but the obscurity that they sort of exist in compared to like a Bake or like Punks or whatever. But I think that as the communities stick around for things like Tubby Cats and Miladies and things like that, and I do believe that like both of those and others have like a good staying power. I think that eventually like more mainstream people will want to dig deeper into this whole thing. I think that like we're still so early with NFTs, and I know that's like a sort of a silly thing to say in crypto, like we're maybe not so early with like Bitcoin, but like the whole NFT world really is like just a totally different thing. It's like totally appealing to people who just would never ever care about like decentralized sound money or whatever. I think that ultimately like a lot of those people are gonna want to explore deeper and just haven't had time yet. That's it. And I think that like the best thing that things like Tubby Cats can do is just what they're doing, which is like continuing to like foster their community and like growing value for holders, keeping the excitement level, and eventually I do think that people will catch on. I mean, the art really is there, like the care that was put into creating some of these things is there, and I think that's all that ultimately they really need. But there is like sort of that gold rush thing where I think what's preventing people right now from like mainstream people from finding things like Tubby Cats and things like that is that there's always a new like big hyped up normie mainstream launch going on, and they're still making money with it. So some of this like lower effort stuff that like catches on with normies for whatever reason. So until that
celebrities chill them and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. So until the mainstream people move beyond like caring what Ja Rule has to say about bakes or whatever, I think it's going to take some time, for that to happen. But when it does, I think people will find a lot of Lindy stuff. I think like stuff like Crypto Dick Butts, like will probably like continue to do well, and like Gremlin Toads and things like that are like, very popular, and they're pretty expensive, but those are niche like crypto Twitter things too, really, when you think about it. Or how many like normies know about X copy? Like probably not that many, right? But they're expensive too. I think stuff like that probably has a better chance of like catching on and becoming more, even more expensive and like more, well known in normie circles here in the future when people have had enough time to settle into the NFT world, and like people become legitimate like NFT experts without even knowing anything about, normies become NFT experts without even knowing anything about like wider crypto, which is totally going to happen. It's like no question in my mind that like there will be tons and tons of people who couldn't tell you like anything about proof of work and proof of stake or whatever, but will be super deep in NFTs and will know hundreds of collections and that kind of thing. So I just think the stuff
interacting with them.
Yep. That's it.
Just needs to dispel those narratives about boiling the ocean and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe when Ethereum moves to proof of stake. Yeah.
Yep. Soon. I think that'll help. Yeah. I guess that's when they'll learn, is when, it becomes like an important narrative for them too, because I mean, like normies want to pump their bags too, and they probably have the same arguments with other normies about like, about like the environment and like boiling the oceans and all that kind of stuff that we do. Right. And I guess you're right. I guess proof of stake specifically will be like important for them because, they'll want to show everybody that, hey, this is not boiling the oceans anymore.
Yeah. And I also, the other big argument that they have, right, is like, I can just right click save it. Of course, the classic. But right. Even with the ape coin drop to BAYC holders, I mean, that I saw an interesting tweet. I can't remember from who, otherwise I gave credit. But, that dispels the whole like right click save, I own it thing.
Yep.
Completely, because it's like, did you receive the airdrop or did you not? Did you get the perks? Did you get the rewards? Like, do you get the entitlements that come with owning an NFT? Do you get membership into this server? Like, whatever. Like, you either have that or you don't. So,
yep.
Yeah. So, I think that argument will continue to sort of dissipate with time as well.
Totally.
And I think also just, it'll start to dissipate as, NFTs and their uses develop. I mean, like with Anata, I mean, it's something new. It's not just like a Top Shot moment or like just a profile pic, so once there are these new use cases, I think people will, either one, they'll just like not know that it's like an NFT, like maybe that term will just fall off. And, or they'll just be, so accustomed to it. I think of like Axie Infinity, people who are playing like play to earn games with NFTs, functionality and things like that. They're probably not on crypto Twitter, but they're still,
Totally. And you could play Axie without really, I think, even barely understanding that, your Axies are NFTs too, which is good. Just like you said, I think like the blending in the background of like NFTs as like these like super speculative assets and turning into like things you actually use. Like, you use a hologram and it reads your Anata NFT. And that's like, I mean, if you want to be your Anata forever and you never want to sell it or whatever, which I'm sure some people will be like that, you won't even really, you might not even care like, what's happening on the NFT market for Anata. You just care that when you sign to connect to hologram, your Anata automatically comes up and you can, use the voice changer and the background changer and stuff and like have fun with it and enjoy it, I think.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a part of like developing your, digital identity and your persona. So that might not be something that you just want to flip, sell your Web3 face to someone else. But,
right.
Maybe some people will.
But hey, you know what? Like the sale fees like help fund the treasury and stuff. So feel free to sell them. But but I think some people won't, like you said, because they get it or they buy it and they think like, wow, this is me now. And I mean, like you have bake people who live in like, small houses or whatever and drive like small cars, but have like 5 bakes because they're like, yeah, I love these apes. Like these apes are me. I'm never going to sell them. Like I respect that. I don't always understand it, but I really respect it.
Yeah, maybe sell one. If you got 5.
Right. Come on, man, sell one at least. Yeah.
Right. On that note, I think we're gonna wrap up. So I'd like to have a big thank you to Big D Senpai for coming on, and you can follow him on Twitter if you don't already at Big D Senpai. And is there anything else you want to say before we sign off?
No, super pleasure to be here, guys. Really, really appreciate it. And thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. So
thanks
for those listening at home, you know the drill. Like and subscribe on YouTube, ring the notification bell, leave comments, all that stuff helps. If you ever want us to talk about a specific topic or you want a guest on the show, leave comments or reach out to any of us on Twitter. We always see all that stuff. So, yeah, and also if you're listening to this from your podcast streaming service of choice, like it, share it with your friends, all that stuff. It really helps us. So, yeah, saying goodbye for Big D, Rick, and Maxwell, I'm Adam. And until next time.